What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3. David and I today are presenting Treatments, which is essentially an entire summary of your film. Mine is like over 4 pages long. Once I have the story down, then we move into the script. Much love for being with us.
I will go off of your lead here, sir.
Alright. So today I would like to start with a little tidbit about my day.
Alright. Let's hear it.
This is new for me. This has never happened. So, leaving work today, I get to the light where there's 2 lanes turning left. The right lane can get far right and merge onto the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And the left lane is kind of stranded there to go straight or kind of force themselves all the way over to the right if they want to go onto the highway. Okay, I've had to be that person before that scoots over and forces themselves over.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, but today it happened to me where somebody cut me off and it really pissed me off. To the point where I didn't really slow down as they were cutting me off. I just kind of went up close to them and flipped them off. I could see that they were looking at me in the rearview mirror. We get up to the lights where there's 3 lanes to then merge. Yep. So there's, it blinks green, 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 1 car at a time. The car's next to me. He's supposed to go first, but I gun it on a red to get ahead of him.
Of course.
Illegally so. And we get over together. I didn't really do that one on purpose, and then we got over together again. And then I realize it's my boss.
Oh my god. Oh my god. No. No. I have written that. I had this idea like a year and a half ago. That this is a hilarious situation. Because our ways of interaction are so vastly different between in the car and out of the car.
Yep.
That for you to scream and then realize that it's somebody.
3 minutes prior, we had just been talking and laughing together.
Oh my god.
And then we get in the cars, and I didn't even put it together until it was way too late. So we then had to drive all the way to Salem. That's 30-minute drive, 50 feet from one another. We drove. He took the he took the exit before me, and we definitely looked at one another as he took the exit. And I sent him a text at 4, right when I got into town 5.5 hours ago, that is unanswered, apologizing and that I did not know it was him on the road. Brother shouldn't have cut me off, but I shouldn't have reacted like that either, so. Right off the bat, what, if you had to pick 2 animals to describe Harrison Ford and Mel Gibson, what animals do you think would be the best fit?
That's a fantastic question. Gibson, I mean, my instinct for Gibson was a shark. That I could see him, and part of this is just the structure of his face. That, like, if you were to tell me that Mel Gibson's latest film is a film where he plays a man who's bitten by a blank and transforms into a blank. My brain would go to shark for some reason. Than that. As far as Harrison Ford goes, I got to think about this carefully because it's going to be an animal who is even and reserved 70% of the time.
Yep.
And then when you kidnap his daughter, it snaps.
Yeah.
So
Moose comes to mind. Moose or an elk.
those are good.
And they are vicious too.
Yeah.
Or a ram from Gibson. Just a hard-headed. I'm small, but I'm gonna knock you down.
Yeah.
Just a ram.
I love that.
Mel Gibson was up for Wolverine at one point back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, and he would have been right around 42 getting that role. 41, 42, because he did Payback in 98, which came out in 99. And then X-Men was 2000. Dude, so what was your experience like going through this source material?
So I read up on what I could about the novel. I mean, I knew before going in that the original film was known to be closer to the novel than the Scorsese. I, interestingly enough, and I would be really curious as to your thoughts here, but I felt that the original film in a few ways has actually aged better than the remake. I don't know why it's hard for me to buy Nick Nolte in that role. It took just a little bit. It was about 30 or 40 minutes into the movie that I finally settled in to him being Sam Bowden. Oh my word, the scene that really, really stood out to me was the daughter and De Niro in the theater auditorium. And particularly her performance, how she's playing that.
So good.
I might have said this aloud as I was watching it. I was like, I don't know if I've ever bought a high school character the way that I buy this one.
Yeah.
The high school girl. All right. An interview with Cady following his release is watched in the home of Sam Bowden, a retired attorney now battling the early to mid stages of dementia. Sam lives with his wife of 50 plus years, Lee, who along with trusted caregiver Graciela, works tirelessly to keep Sam afloat. In addition to dementia, Sam has been wrestling for decades with the depression brought about by his daughter Nancy's suicide, itself the apparent result of trauma following her abduction. To this day, Bowden views Cady as his daughter's murderer and himself as the father who failed to protect his family. And then in parentheses, I've got, throughout the film will be shown the sequence of events of Nancy's abduction and subsequent rescue, but only in like flashy fragments a la The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Of those flashbacks. Sam is furious over Cady's release. Lee insists that there's nothing to be done about it. Sam obviously disagrees. Pretty soon, Sam begins seeing Cady around the house, loitering by his fence as he gardens, strolling through the park on one of his morning walks, etc. It would be an elderly man in the early to mid stages of dementia seeing Cady around. Sam is convinced that Cady is stalking him, a theory that Lee and his doctor both dispute given Sam's condition. Sam is the old man who cried wolf. At this stage in the film, it would be following for the most part, events of the actual film, as far as the actual encounters between the two. Like, up until this point, there's been a lot of liberties. At this point, I would imagine is where they really start to converge up until, and this was sort of the idea that I had as far as this background goes. The grand finale of the film takes place on Cady's houseboat, the place where Nancy Bowden was kept and abused 40 years ago. Now the site where Cady holds Sam's granddaughter, Nancy, hostage. And Sam and Daniel are the ones that go to attempt her recovery. And I imagine Sam probably dies.
Listening to yours, there's some parts that are better than mine. And I just hope that you have the same realizations about mine.
Absolutely.
We open on Max Cady in prison during a meal. Maybe the camera searches and finds Cady, chance for a long hallway shot, and then finds him eating. A pal of his sits across from Max and he's jumpy. He gives Cady a heads up about something discreet-like. Cady whines about it, disappointed. 5 men approach and stop Max Cady in a hallway. Their dispute pertains to Cady's upcoming release date. A brawl ensues. Cady is able to hold his own, but quickly begins losing the battle. 3 guards stop the action soon enough for Cady to dust off and be good, having dished out a broken limb or two. Cady is released. He stands directionless outside the prison gate. Cady asks advice from the guard, and the two have a rapport. The guard wishes Cady luck. We introduce Sam in court, doing what he does best. In fact, he continues defending scumbags, which is his own specialty. What he accomplishes in court calls for celebration, the idea being that defending abhorrent actions could bite you in return, with Max Cady. The Bowden family eats dinner. Sam kisses the dog as the other 2 women serve themselves plates of food. Sam kisses his wife. Intercut. This dinner scene is intercut with Max Cady sobbing in an old apartment of his. He thrashes the joint in an emotional tornado. The Bowden family discusses a serious topic about a boyfriend of Danny's. Intercut with Max is finally calm, looking back through books and photos, his old life. Cady comes across a picture of an old dog. He sets it aside. The next picture is of a woman and a child, a daughter. He scowls. The Bowden family washes up from dinner. Danny hears the dog barking outside. She walks to the sliding glass door to the backyard, only to see Cady standing in the backyard. Danny shrieks. Sam rushes to the door, throwing it open. Nobody's there. Sam rambunctiously searches Max Cady's case, only to discover that he has been released from prison not even 3 days ago. That night, Sam readies a handgun, nervously awaits any potential harm, staring at the front door, being spooked by windows. Nothing happens. Sam is nodding off and goes to bed. We reveal Cady has been standing inside the house the entire time. Sam never knew it. The next morning, the dog is writhing on the ground, spasming, biting itself, like the book describes. Sam is not present, so Carol and Danny try to remedy the situation to no avail of their own. Sam arrives and they take the dog to the vet where the dog dies. Sam is pissed. POV switch. Max Cady now setting up his new life with moderate success and not necessarily legally. I think Cady should glide under the radar of the law and police because that's probably what I can imagine prison life is like too. The amount of what happens under the guards' noses. Maybe Cady robs some rich snob, and the person could come back around to divulge this information to Sam in a critical moment. Max Cady has a beautiful scene in a dog rescue shelter. He chooses an old, scruffed-up pit bull to take home. They are instantly friends. Sam starts a hunt for Max Cady through the legal system. He hires a PI to be on Max Cady. It's expensive, and Sam does so without his family's knowledge. Cady catches on to the PI, he dupes him, lets him know, makes some sort of contact with him. Max Cady finds out that Danny has a boyfriend and becomes jealous. So After following the two, he approaches them, confronting them about dating one another. Things become physical between Max Cady and the boyfriend, ending up with the boyfriend wounded on the ground, and Danny now remembering who she saw in the backyard. Danny relays this to Sam, who now takes matters into his own hands. He invites Cady for a sit-down. Sam and Cady meet at a bar for drinks. Their conversation is heavy and captivating in nature. It becomes intense as they drink. Sam has someone pick him up. It's his own 16-year-old daughter, because he's a scumbag. Cady gets a good peek at her, maybe a wordless slow-motion shot. This is when Sam hires the thugs. He finally goes from legal to now illegal. I think Cady is going to whoop their asses and even dispose of them. But then the next day, Cady is going to show up in the hospital beat up. What does that tell you? He did it himself. I really encourage you reading the book because of how much I will be resorting back to it and ignoring the movie's choices. Just like you kind of mentioned. You mentioned we might be writing The Executioners, and I kept that in mind the entire time. I was critical of 1991's Cape Fear this time around. I was critical. I dropped my rating quite a bit watching it on Letterboxd. I thought it was goofy. Dude, the maid, Max Cady, I forgot about that. I laughed. He's Mrs. Doubtfire, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! I just could not get over how cheesy that was. And a couple other things that I was like, dude, I don't like that. I also watched the Simpsons episode in preparation for this too.
I need to rewatch that one.
He's under the car and all that stuff, and he's like hitting every speed bump. It was the funniest thing.
That's good. I wasn't aware actually how many cliches were taken from not the original, but from the 1991.
Yeah.
I thought that there were they were cliches that were originated in the 1962 and then were carried on, but like no, a lot of them were just original to the Scorsese.
Max Cady increases his violent act each time it increases. You got the dog, the woman, the thugs, and then the finale. That happens in each one. I would like to have sympathy for Max Cady despite the acts and the terror. You know, I have this line in my head where Sam could kill him and his last words were something like, I was just trying to scare you. You know, like his intentions weren't really there.
Because I love what you're pitching as far as Cady's character goes. Which I right off the bat with what you were describing, I love the idea of Ford still defending sleazebags, like still being the Gotham City.
Yep. Because there's a part of me that looks at guys like that and goes, how do you live with yourself in that profession?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I really like that too.
Like a Saul Goodman, but that you take a little bit more seriously than Saul Goodman.
I love your introduction, the dementia with Sam. I think that maybe Rabbit Trail, I think 1991 has the weakest intro to Sam Bowden out of the three by far. Do you even remember his intro?
The 1991, it's not the ice cream shop, is it? Or is it their family breakfast or some shit?
Nope, he's just walking out of the courthouse, down some steps with a guy. And he goes, yeah, we got the judge to postpone the hearing 28 weeks. Oh, wow. Oh, man, all right. Get your lunch? You know, it was like the weakest intro.
Yeah.
So I think a living room with a TV would also be uninteresting, but the first steps or a visible dementia in a courtroom really intrigues me.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And that I love that because I was really going back and forth with the is he still an acting attorney or is he retired? I kept going back and forth with that.
He could be in between.
Yep. I like that a lot.
Me too. So how do we combine these ideas?
Well, there were a couple thoughts that came into my head over this past week. It's a little bit more abstract as far as protocol for moving forward, but I wondered about giving each of us one of the two to focus on in as far as their individual experiences, not their shared experiences. But if we each took a crack at the individuals, just something to establish the tone and whatnot. Moving forward, with combining these, I mean, I think definitely lean more towards yours as far as the structure. The foundation is more of a service to the original, definitely, and
sure,
while still it preserves the right things from the original while offering compelling new material.
Yeah. Something I just found out today because of Raiders of the Lost podcast. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. Raiders of the Lost podcast, they just started a sponsorship today with a writing software called Writer's Duet.
Writer's Duet.
So it's like Google Drive, but script writing format. Two people could be in the same editing, like we can access it on our phones, we can access it online, 30 days free, and then $8 a month after that.
Oh, dude, I love that. And I will invest in that book and get that taken in.
Yeah, man.
Love it. Get this unshaven face the attention that it gets.
Yeah.
That it deserves.
Yeah. I actually have a full-grown beard right now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been working on this triple backflip that I really wanted to
yeah.
Quick. Thank you, man. It's a work in progress. Yeah, I love you, man.
Love you too, bro. Thank you for sticking with me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for keeping me involved, and I'm really looking forward to moving forward with this thing.
Same. All right, dude. Catch you in a couple weeks.
Yes, catch you in a couple weeks.
Right.
Later.
Peace.
I don't know if you heard this. My cat actually had to get her anal glands emptied again a couple days ago.
I don't think that's been mentioned in the show at all yet.
Oh, good. For those of you wondering, those of you listening to this wondering about the status of my cat's anal glands, here's what's going on. They were emptied 3 days ago, and as of today, it has become evident that they are in need of emptying again.
And how was this noticed by you guys again?
Good question. The way it was noticed was scooting. Actually, she does this little, this little scoot across the carpet, which is,
I'm sure it's adorable.
it's adorable until you realize that immense pain and immense discomfort. Apparently, very very common in dogs, just not so much in cats. So she probably has some hyper sleeve stack somi chopsticks, I think. I think what they said.